You believe you're living a love, but deep down, you're struggling not to disappear into it. And what's worse, hardly anyone notices when you're trapped in this kind of bond, because emotional codependency disguises itself as affection, care, and surrender. You give so much of yourself, try so hard, hold on so tight, that when everything falls apart, you still think it was your fault. It sounds strong to say this, but some people call love what is actually an emotional prison. And this prison has clear symptoms: fear of rejection, difficulty saying no, personal annulment, constant need for approval. Relationships like this are like a broken mirror. You try to see yourself, but all you see is distortion. Now, if any part of you has ever felt that loving has become synonymous with suffering, you need to listen to what follows. Because when you see the right signs, the game changes. And it may be quicker than you think. Some people lose themselves when they fall in love. Literally. They stop listening to their own voice, disconnect from their own desires, and start living for the other person. When this happens, what seems like love becomes dangerous ground, full of pitfalls such as codependent relationships and excessive attachment. It's as if the world loses its color if the other person isn't around, and little by little, they begin to feel that without him or her, nothing makes sense anymore. This kind of total surrender often comes from an inner emptiness. Women who carry a wound of abandonment, or grew up hearing that they would only be loved if they were perfect, end up falling into this trap easily. It's not uncommon to see someone canceling out their own projects, friends, or even the way they are, just to please or fit into the life of the one they love. Emotional dependence disguises itself as care, but it's a prison. And when self-esteem is low, any crumb of affection seems like a feast. A practical exercise. Stop and think. What gave you joy before this relationship? Make a list of 3 simple things that made you smile and start practicing them again, even if it feels forced. At first, regaining emotional control starts with remembering that you exist as an individual. You weren't born to live in someone else's reflection, nor to have to ask permission to be happy. And when you start to realize this, an uncomfortable light goes on, showing you that perhaps your surrender is costing you too much. There are women who don't fight, don't argue, don't raise their voices, but inside, they're at war. She gives in, swallows her tears, accepts what she doesn't agree with just to keep everything calm. But this tranquility is false and expensive. Personal annulment is a silent form of violence against oneself. This is where the danger of a codependent relationship lies. When the fear of rejection and the need for approval speak louder than the truth itself. This often comes from a past where love was synonymous with pleasing. If, in childhood, she learned that she would only be accepted if she didn't annoy. This logic is repeated in adulthood, so she keeps quiet when she's betrayed. She smiles when she is belittled, and she blames herself when she can no longer hide her sadness. This difficulty in saying no is what sustains many toxic relationships, because those who don't set limits become a depository for the other person's pain. Want a practical step? Start by recognizing a single situation in your day when you kept quiet for fear of losing out. It could be something small, like agreeing to something you didn't want, just so you wouldn't be displeased. Now write down, I had the right to say what I felt. Repeating this on a daily basis begins to recover the strength that has been silenced. And it is in this space, where silence weighs heavy, that much will emerge. She wakes up asking if he's okay, spends the day trying not to cause him stress. And when he comes home angry, the first thing she thinks is, what did I do wrong? This constant feeling of guilt doesn't come out of nowhere. In many codependent relationships, the woman takes on the role of emotional caretaker, as if the other person's happiness were her job. The problem is that this burden crushes her and gradually destroys her own stability. Most of the time, this dynamic has deep roots. Perhaps she grew up with someone unpredictable, a parent who oscillated between affection and coldness, and who made her feel guilty about everything. So she learned to control her environment, monitor her feelings, and anticipate crises. But love is not a surveillance field. When emotional dependency becomes routine, she forgets that she also has emotions, that she also has limits, and that she wasn't born to be anyone's savior. To turn this switch, start by asking yourself, is what he feels really my responsibility? If the answer is no, take a deep breath and take a step back, mentally, emotionally. Write down 3 things you did for yourself today, and not for him. It's small actions like this that restore your individuality. Because when someone else's emotional control defines your mood, you don't live, you survive. She may smile on the outside, but on the inside she's on alert. Any change of tone, a "I'll talk to you later," a silence on the cell phone, and that's it. The heart races, the mind creates scenarios, and the fear of rejection takes over. This constant dread of being left isn't an exaggeration, it's a real pain, born of the wound of abandonment and low self-esteem. In codependent relationships, this fear becomes a prison. They adapt, shut up, cancel themselves out, just so they don't lose the other person. This kind of excessive attachment often leads to silently destructive behavior, like reading and rereading, conversations trying to find a mistake, apologizing even for no reason, or giving in to everything in order to maintain the security of the bond. But what is this, if not control disguised as care? It's a desperate attempt not to be changed, forgotten, rejected. And that's not love. That's trauma, disguised as romanticism. And the worst part? She starts to think that living like this is normal. To start healing, she can try a simple but powerful exercise, writing a letter to herself, remembering who she was before that relationship. Write down what she liked, what she dreamed of, what made her laugh. This reunion with her own essence is a step towards regaining emotional control. Because when the fear of being alone speaks louder than the peace of being with yourself, something needs to change. And perhaps the hardest part is yet to come. She doesn't even need to hear that it was her fault. She already believes it. If he's distant, if the conversation was awkward, if the relationship is heavy, it's because she did something wrong. This corrosive pattern stems from an emotional history in which she learned that she needed to deserve love. All she had to do was miss a comma, and everything would fall apart. This creates a cruel cycle. She carries the weight of the entire relationship alone, afraid of not being good enough. She's the woman who, even when she's been mistreated, wonders if she overreacted. Who, even when she's been ignored, looks for where she went wrong. In toxic relationships, this self-sabotage becomes routine. Emotional dependence, mixed with the need for approval, makes her doubt everything, even her own pain. And so she silently nullifies herself. Because deep down, she believes that if she were calmer, more understanding, more perfect, he wouldn't have changed. To get out of this maze, a practical step is to start naming your own feelings. Instead of thinking, "I must have done something wrong," she can ask herself, "What did I feel in that situation?" Validating one's emotions is the first act of resistance against a life of guilt. And when she begins to see that she is not responsible for someone else's choices, something inside her begins to break free. And what comes after that can change everything. Now that you've recognized these signs, tell me, how long will you continue to call love something that only drains you? How many more times are you going to cancel yourself out to keep someone close? The truth is that as long as you continue to ignore the symptoms, the wound of emotional dependency will only deepen. And healthy relationships aren't born out of your pain. They're born out of your self-love. So look at your story with courage. If any of these signs have struck you, It's time to act. What are you going to do with everything you've discovered? Today? Are you going to let it go? Or will you use it as fuel to really change your life? If this content has helped you in any way, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stick with me. We still have a lot to talk about, and you deserve a lifetime of relationships that heal you, not break you.